changed the rules, so I can't get on and make comments, so you just have to make your own comments today. But we're going to be covering some AI stuff as it fits with retail and direct marketing. So let's see what we come up with. I'm excited to be talking about Stephen Yu, who came on the show and we had a nice conversation, and so I've been kind of a follower ever since. But before we do, let's start out with some new information from the ICO. The ICO is the Information Commissioner's Office, which I always forget what that stands for. But I know what the ICO is. The ICO is a guy who can shut you down if he doesn't like your data practices. And apparently there's a new warning to ad tech companies who have failed to use the window of opportunity to gauge and transform their practices. The ICO is coming for you. Now, I keep an eye on this stuff because, direct marketers, direct mailers save their customer list for more than the 2-year window. And asking for permission to recontact is considered a contact. So if someone buys from you and you don't get affirmation every 2 years, theoretically you shouldn't be able to recontact them. That's how GDPR is sort of set up. Now, that said, it was set up to thwart endless email forever. That was the main gist of it, okay? Don't keep sending me this stuff forever. On the other hand, as I said, general practice of catalog companies, heck, National Business Furniture used to mail 10-year-old buyers. Now that was to businesses. And they still made money doing it. So sometimes that buying window, and in furniture companies too, we mailed a lot longer. In Cabela's, we were able to go back and identify high-ticket buyers, like people who bought muzzle loaders. Same thing with Musician's Friend. What we found was that, as a side note, where there was a high percentage of mobile homes, we did better. So we figured with Musician's Friend that the story went like this. Now what'd you buy? We need a new refrigerator. What's this box from Musician's Friend? Oh, it's a new Gibson guitar for $2,000. But we need a new refrigerator. So that guy would go dormant a little while, like 3 or 4 years, till the divorce was settled and he got his new mobile home. And then he'd come back to life. And in fact, the same thing happened with Cabela's and has happened with many special interest groups. When we have a big purchase, they kind of go dormant. So periods without much contact and then contact work really well. And so when GDPR came out, this 24-month limit could have been disastrous for the list industry, right? But mainly, we're not keeping a lot of information about people. It's mainly their street address, and we mail them now and then, and it costs us a lot of money, so we don't want to mail them needlessly. That's the unseen part of junk mail, is that because it costs way more than an email or way, way, way more than a banner ad, we just as soon not mail to people who aren't interested. Anyway, so Nigel Swaby over in the UK, who's in the list industry over there, said that in general the ICO has allowed catalogers to keep mailing on the issue of legitimate interest, but now they're coming after it and they're trying to refine it. And so we're in this weird situation. I gave Nigel a call, but I didn't hear back from him. But the mailer's interest that's legitimate is that we've been doing business like this for 50 years, right? That's what they were intending for a legitimate interest to be. On the other hand, they're saving this data of all your browsing history, trying to find something worthwhile in it to use it for real-time bidding. on digital advertising. The whether it's even effective is another question entirely. But the ICO anyway was targeting them, and so I think this will actually help by defining legitimate interest more tightly. This will actually help the mailers. So if you want to deal with GDPR, you're far better off sending a piece of mail than you are emailing or using digital ads that are targeted based on this information. Just saying. Direct mail is like the main out of these digital privacy laws. And we can model without third-party data. Oh, one other thing, they were very encouraged by the removal of Google. Google said they were going to remove 30 third-party cookies, as I said the other day. But then, trade bodies, ANA, most notably, said it was going to choke the economic oxygen off advertising. But you heard the answer to that day before yesterday. So you know that that's not true. And the ANA is, again, completely wrong, as usual. Okay, so let's go over here to Ken Sternikert. Ken Sternikert. Okay, and he's senior management at an AI company. No kidding. And he says, basically, today's merchandise management cannot keep up. Too many stores, too many store plans, too many products. We need to be able to predict the unpredictable. Of course, that is a contradiction, but we won't point that out more than once. Only 16% of retailers have deployed AI, and if you take Amazon and Walmart as two of the big ones, then it's probably, as a percentage of the dollars, probably way higher than that. Okay, so AI, what is AI and how does it relate to this? Okay, the two main goals for retail is sell-through of inventory and improving margins. And of course, sell-through of inventory means you got to know what's sold and what hasn't. Now, the UCROP system back in 1987 or 88 helped retailers know what had gone out the door. And the CFO at Dominic's Finer Foods told me that the grocers who didn't implement barcode scanning, those people went out of business because no retailer could manage the store and know what was selling. But that kind of leveled off. Now we know what's selling. And Walmart was a big proponent of that and satellite linking the stores way before the internet. But the tricky part is that he says retailers must be able to quickly react to the slightest change in customer behavior across each individual store in order to ensure loyalty. And what AI does is AI analyzes the past. Okay? Fundamentally, AI analyzes the past. Wherever you hear the term real-time data, data is always historical. Data can't be the future. It's always the past. So real-time is non-existent. Now, you could have speedy, and one of the articles I just read said we have to have the ability to appear spontaneous. Now, in a conversation, that gives you about a 1 or 2 second window, so it's pretty difficult. It's going to be difficult to get your chatbots up to that conversational level, which is how we really evaluate the Turing test. Anyway, so AI analyzes the past. So what you want is really speedy past analysis. The trouble is that the past, you'll see patterns in the past, but in a changing environment, those patterns don't keep up because they're changing. AI will point you in the direction of the pattern, and the consumer may be going in a new pattern. So when we were modeling during the Great Recession in 2007, 8, 9, in there, mainly 8, 9, what we would do is instead of normally what we do to keep an eye on seasonality, and here it actually talks about how you might you might have holidays, religious holidays and things, and look back a year. But when times are changing really fast, we started modeling as soon as the results were in, remodeling, to see if there were additional patterns. Now, you can still go back and do a model based on last year's trends, but last year's trends might be too long, right? But there's always a window where we have to have some period of historical data. Now, you don't need that for A/B splits, but I mean, you can measure as it comes in, but you have to set them up really carefully. We'll get into that in my Target Tuesday. Okay, so his examples. This was, I thought, really interesting. A retailer might discover that there's a gym located directly across the street from one of its store locations. As a result, shoppers are looking for healthier grab-and-go food options after a workout, as opposed to a store in a more suburban area that offers a wider assortment of meals that cater to larger families. Now, the reason I bring this up is because yesterday at church, I was talking with someone who started making bread, and I make bread. Not as often as I should, but I really enjoy making bread. It's magical. You take dust, flour is to me like dust. You wouldn't want to taste it. Ugh, I don't even like touching it. And you mix in yeast, which again is like more dust and not something you'd want to eat plain. Salt, that's no good either. And you add water. And voila, you get this beautiful loaf of bread. It's a miracle. It's flat out a miracle, if you ask me. And so we were talking about making bread, and they said, they used to go to Whole Foods and buy these really nice breads. And one of the breads in particular they liked was a sourdough artisan whole wheat, which is tricky to do. Whole wheat's a little tricky, takes more water. And sourdough's a little tricky to do. And apparently, since Whole Foods was acquired by Amazon, the Madison Whole Foods has dropped basically all of their niche breads that were very popular. And my friend used to buy the breads, and they were only available at the Whole Foods in Madison, and would take them with her when she traveled, and people loved them because they were very unique. All gone. And here we go. This is a great example of how AI requires a big data set, but AI will kill anomalies depending on who's running it. AI will say, oh, that one store selling that one bread, it doesn't sell anywhere else, we're dropping it. It's an outlier. It's probably a mistake. Wonderful. I thought AI was going to solve this. Oh, it does the opposite. Especially if it's predictive modeling, not prescriptive. Now, prescriptive, there's this trade-off. Prescriptive will give you insights, but the broader the data, the better the gain often, the clearer the results, the more understandable the results, but it will also cover up things like whole wheat sourdough bread. Now, on the other hand, the predictive data, the neural net, will spot it. And it may figure out that we should have more sourdough whole wheat bread in Madison at other locations because it's popular. But maybe they don't know how to make it. All kinds of other things. Maybe we don't even know that that's what it's doing. Maybe it all of a sudden multiplies it to the rest of the country and it fails. This is why AI does not solve these things. So, Kevin, in retail target marketing, the past is where data lies, and the anomalies, which you pointed out are important, are often masked, eliminated, or extrapolated. All three can put your company out of business. Just saying. So I would say thank you for the article, Kevin, Chief Marketing Officer, and you have a great big global company, and I'm sure you have case studies that are great. I'm John Miglash for the Wisconsin DMA, International Society for Strategic Marketing. Like and share. Your friends will think you're smart.